want to talk about two conditions for personal change to happen. And the reason I want to share these two conditions with you is because we have a lot of people that come to our community forums. So grateful for all of them and hope 1,000 more will come along with them. But most of the folks who come to our forums, they're coming on behalf of somebody else, or they're coming because they love someone else, or they're coming because there's somebody that they care about, and that individual is making choices, decisions that are not best, and they're going down a bad road and is self-destructive. And people come here, they love them, they care, and those are good things. But what we tend to see happening is that I would say that the majority of people that come on the behalf of other people care more about those people, or care about them changing more than those people want to change. And it's hard for these individuals that come to us to pump the brakes and recognize that there are certain conditions in place. And if these conditions are not in place, well, then as the metaphors go, we can talk till we're blue in the face that they're just not going to change. And so there are two critical conditions that are necessary for a person to change. And one of those is that people have to be desperate enough to change. They have just got to be desperate enough to change. And then number two, they have to be willing enough to change. Those are the two things. A sense of desperation, that is when they are at the last knot on the rope. That's when they're clinging to the very end of the rope, and they're in a position of desperation, but also willing to change. Those two things are essential, because some people can be desperate, but yet they're desperate, but they're not willing to change. And if those two things are not active in a person's life, then again, we can yell till we're blue in the face, or yell until the cows come home, and they're just not going to change. And it's essential for us, those of us who love those that are heading down self-destructive paths, to understand this. These individuals must realize the burden of their dictatorship over their lives, the tyranny that they have over their own lives, that if they don't come to that place of recognizing that they are cruel dictators, that it is a cruel tyranny that they are orchestrating over their lives, if they don't come to that place, they won't change. Now, once they come to this transformative place, there will be an appeal to they will make an appeal of their own selves, and they will be in faith to do something different. But until then, the appeal that they make to themselves and the faith to move forward, it just won't be present, and they won't change. And so the two conditions that we need to recognize, that they have to be desperate, but not just desperate. They have to be willing to. And if they're in that spot, then they're in a good place where change can happen. There is a story in Luke 15 that all of you are probably familiar with, and that is the prodigal son. His dad could say anything that he wanted to say, but that boy was not going to change until he came to that metaphorical place of desperation. I mean, he was in the hog lot, as the story goes. And the picture there is that is the end of himself. It is a place of desperation. But was he willing to change? Well, eventually he was willing. And so those two things work like a hand in a glove. There's some people that can get to that place of desperation in the hog lot, but there's no willingness to do anything else for whatever reason. And so, as you're helping a person, you want to try to, as much as you can subjectively discern, is this person desperate? And is this person willing? If they're not, then you have to guard your heart. You have to pump the brakes on your own brain and your own tongue. And you can't over worry, you can't oversteer the car, you can't over care, because if you do, you're just wasting time, you're wasting energy. You are accumulating worry and fear and anxiety. There'll probably be some guilt that will come along eventually, and maybe shame. If it's a child of yours, it most definitely will be guilt and shame as you've done all you can do to try to get them to change. And so now you're going to start punishing yourself. And so you look in the rearview mirror and think about all the things that you woulda, shoulda, coulda, and now it's a self pummeling of yourself, when all the while the person is not desperate enough and is unwilling to change. And so you have to rest in these moments, and your worrying about it or self-flagellation as you look in the rearview mirror, it's not going to change one thing. It's going to make you worse off. It could end up fracturing the relationship even more because your desperation will get out on you, and you can end up pushing them farther and farther away because you just won't let it go. And so the two conditions for change are, is the person desperate enough, and then are they willing, born out of that desperation? And then if they are, they will make the appeal to themselves that they don't want this tyranny over their own lives. They don't like their dictatorial rulership. And so they will make the appeal. I am desperate. And it will not only be an appeal to change, but they will be in faith. They will take the willing steps to change their lives. And when they get to that place, then you can come back on the scene as the Father did in Luke 15, and you can help them only after they are desperate and they are willing.